Are you ready to learn? If you are ready, let's go! According to Helen Hayes, an expert in anything was once a beginner. Before we proceed to our topic, let's have first an energizer. Please stand and follow the steps.
One, two, three, let's go!
Saging, saging, mangga, mangga, papaya, papaya. Basta-basta mahit, pakalu-kaluin. Salad, salad. Saging, saging, mangga, mangga, papaya, papaya. Basta-basta mahit, pakalu-kaluin. Fruit salad, fruit salad. Saging, saging, mangga, mangga, papaya, papaya. Basta-basta mahit, pakalu-kaluin. Fruit salad, fruit salad.
DJ Kent James Remix.
One, two, three, let's go!
Wow, that was amazing! Before we proceed to our topic, let's have first an activity. This activity is called Complete Me Now. The first one we have here, can you guess? Wow, you are correct. The second one, can you guess? Wow, amazing! For the last one we have here, can you guess? Wow, perfect! Today, we were going to learn deeper about traditional literary criticism. For the contents, these are the things we need to know. Introduction to traditional literary criticism. So what is traditional literary criticism? Traditional literary criticism evaluates texts through established principles, focusing on form, meaning, and historical context. It's a way of studying and judging books, poems, plays, and other written works. It uses old, established rules from thinkers like Aristotle from the ancient Greece to look closely at the story itself. The main idea is to focus on how well the writing is put together, like its structure, characters, and themes without worrying too much about the author's personal life. When it comes to historical background, traditional criticism started from old ideas in ancient times and helped create the ways we understand and judge literature today. The importance of traditional literary criticism, it gives us basic key ideas that help us better understand how books and stories connect to the culture and history over time.
And now, let's go to the key principles and approaches.
First one here is a focus on text and author. Emphasizes analyzing the text, intrinsic meaning, and the author's intent to understand literature deeply. Okay, this means that paying close attention to what the author actually wrote, the words, sentences, and style they use. It also means thinking about the author's ideas, intentions, and background. Basically, we try to understand what the author wanted to say or how they said it. So the goal of this is the author wants us to understand understand what they are trying to say in their literatures. Okay, now the second one is emphasis on moral and aesthetic values. Focuses on evaluating literature based on ethical lessons and artistic beauty, emphasizing timeless moral and aesthetic standards. So this means that this focuses on both the message and the beauty of the text. Moral values are the lessons or ideas about right and wrong, what the story teaches. Aesthetic values are about how beautiful or artistic the work is, how well it's written, and how creative or emotional it feels. So, we judge the book by both its meaning and its artistic quality. Okay, so for the last one is role of historical context. Historical context shapes interpretation by linking texts to their cultural, social, and political environments. So this means that understanding the time and place when the text was written, knowing the history, culture, and events of that period help us to see why the author wrote the way they did. For example, a story written during a war might express fear or hope because of what was happening at the time. In short, we study what the author wrote and why, we look at the message and the beauty of the writing, and we consider when and where it was written to understand it better.
Now, let's go to the major forms of traditional literary criticism.
Formalist criticism. This approach focuses entirely on the text itself. That means we analyze the structure, style, and meaning through close reading. We really don't consider the author's background or the historical context. We only focus the words, patterns, and techniques used in the writing. It's like zooming in on the craft of the text to see how it works as a piece of literature. Basically, formalist criticism ignores the author's background, historical context, or reader's feelings. Now think of it like analyzing a painting just by looking at its colors, shapes, and composition, not who painted it or why. Now, for example, when reading a poem, a formalist would examine rhyme, meter, and figurative language to understand its meaning, but it won't focus on the reader's or author's background, historical context, or our reader's feelings. Now, the next one is the biographical historical criticism. This is one of the oldest ways to study literature. It looks at the author's life and the historical period when the text was written. The idea is that a writer's personal experiences and the events of their time influence what they write. So we ask questions like this. What was happening in the world when this was written? What do we know about the author's beliefs or struggles? Biographical historical criticism believes that literature reflects the author's personal experiences and the time period in which it was written. It also helps readers understand why certain themes, characters, or events appear in the story. It also connects literature to real-world events in the author's own journey. For example, in the story Dolby Tangere of Dr. Rizal, it focuses on the author's background and the historical context about what happens in the Philippines during that time.
For the continuation, I will be going to talk about the archetypal criticism, psychoanalytic, and structuralism. Let's go. archetypal criticism, or also known as the myth criticism. So this approach interprets a text by focusing on recurring myths, symbols, and character types that appear across different cultures and time periods. So when we say recurring, it is occurring again periodically or repeatedly. So this theory, influenced by Carl Jung's concepts of a collective, or also known as the collective unconscious, suggests that these universal patterns resonate with people everywhere because they represent fundamental human experiences. So the first type here that we have is the myth. So the mother, so one example for this is the mother archetype. The Greek goddess Demeter is an example of the mother archetype, representing nurturing, protection, and the cyclical nature of life and death. So the second type here is the characters. So characters, archetypes are common archetypes found in stories throughout writing. Just like the hero, for example, a character who takes a difficult journey, faces obstacle, and undergoes transformation to save their community. So the last type here that we have is the symbols or symbolic archetypes. These are objects, color, or settings that hold a universal meaning, such as, for example, water. Water can also be symbolized cleansing, rebirth, or the unconscious. Fourth criticism is the psychoanalytical criticism. So it uses Freudian or Lacanian theory to explore unconscious motives. So basically, this kind of criticism is a method of analyzing literature by applying the principles of psychoanalysis, primarily the theories of Sigmund Freud and Jacques Lacan. This approach treats a literary text like a dream, seeking to uncover the hidden or unconscious desires, fears, and conflicts of either the characters within the work or the author who created it. So one of the focuses of the this kind of criticism is the unconscious drives. So it means on how characters' actions are motivated by unconscious desires, repressed memories, or childhood traumas. Just like, for example, in Oedipus Rex by Sophocles, psychoanalytical reading suggests that the play's power comes from its depiction of the Oedipus complex, a repressed desire for a son to be with his mother. And the last criticism is the structuralism. So it means that unlike new criticism, structuralism focuses less on the individual text and more on the system that makes it possible. So in other words, it is a way of analyzing things like language, literature, and society by looking at the underlying systems and structures that made them possible. Instead of focusing on a single isolated them, it examines how that item's meaning is created through its relationships with differences with other items within a larger systems. So to simplify this, just as grammar provides the rules that allow individual words to form a meaningful sentence, structuralism suggests that there are universal grammars that allow cultural elements to make sense. Just like, for example, in literature, a structuralist analysis of a fairy tale, such as Cinderella, would not focus in the unique elements of the story, like the specific type of sleeper or the Papkin carriage, it doesn't question from the story. Instead, it would break down the plot into its fundamental components and compare them to other similar stories. There are lots, or there are bunch of stories like specifically in fairy tales that have a similar structure, and that is the focus of this kind of criticism, which is the structure of the story.
Desiree Bulayog, and today we embark on an insightful journey into the foundational principles of literary analysis. I'm very excited to share these concepts.
Alright, class. So first we have here the formalist criticism. So in this type of criticism, we only look at what is inside the text. So we do not consider the author, we do not consider the history, we do not consider the social background. So for formalist, the meaning is complete inside the literary work itself. Okay? So their method is called first the close reading. So, close reading means we examine every part of the text carefully. So, we study the words, the images, the structure, the rhythm, and even the language. So, we pay attention even to small details because formalists believe that everything inside the text has a purpose. Alright? So, for the techniques, we have here analyzing the literary device, like the metaphors, the imagery, symbols, because this contribute to the meaning of the text. So they also look for the irony and the paradox because this help reveal the hidden truths in the text. So lastly, they can also prove the organic unity. So which means they try to show how all parts of the text work together to form one complete whole. So if one part here is removed, the meaning will change. Am I understood? Alright. So another, we have the biographical historical criticism. So unlike formalism, so this approach believes that the best way to understand the text is to understand the author and the time period. So their method here, the method that is being used here is research. Okay, so critics research the author's personal life, their letters, also including their diary, their social position. So they also study the historical context of the time the text was then produced, because they believe that the writer's experience and the events around them shape the way how they write. So I mentioned here, this is the external information used to interpret the text. So we use research for that. Alright? So next we have here the archetypal or the myth criticism. So we have this approach which believes that literature shares timeless patterns that appear again and again in stories across different cultures. So these patterns are called the archetypes. Alright? So their method is what we call as the pattern identification. So they do not look at one text, but they compare it to stories from from one other culture and other time periods. So in here they try to see the bigger connection of literature to universal myth. Alright, so their technique would include recognizing the archetypal characters like the hero, the villain, or who is the mother figure, or who is the wise old man, the damsel in distress, things like that. So they also apply the mythic patterns like the journey of the hero, the rituals, the death and rebirth, and the search for identity. So this is very common because they believe that stories share the same human experience, like no matter where they come from.
For further discussion, I will discuss the psychoanalytic structuralism with their methods and techniques.
I'll be discussing the psychoanalytical criticism period. This method focuses on the psychological interpretation of literary works. It means that critics try to understand a story, poem, or novel by looking at the unconscious thoughts, emotions, and desires of either the author or the characters. This approach is influenced by the ideas of Sigmund Freud, who believed that human behavior is often driven by hidden feelings and inner conflicts. So, when using this method, we try to uncover what's going on in a character's mind, their fears, dreams, or motivations, and how this affect their actions in the story. For example, if a character is always anxious or guilty, a psychoanalytic critic might say that this comes from unresolved issues or repressed emotions from their past. In the same way, an author's writing might reflect their own personal struggles or desires without them even realizing it. In short, psychoanalytical criticism helps us see literature not just a story, but as a window into a deeper parts of the human mind, the things we often hide or don't fully understand. Next, I'll be discussing about the techniques of psychoanalytical criticism. This approach uses psychology to better understand a literary work. And there are three main techniques critics often use. First is analyzing character psychology. This means looking deeply into a character's thoughts, emotions, and behaviors to uncover their hidden motives or inner conflicts. For example, we might ask what fears, desires, or past experiences influence a character's actions. Second is interpreting the text as a dream. Just like dreams, literary works can contain symbols and hidden meanings. Critics interpret these symbols to find out what the story might reveal about the unconscious mind, both of the author and the characters. Lastly, examining the author's neuroses focuses on the authors themselves. It means trying to understand how the author's own experiences, fears, and desires may have influenced the themes or characters in their writing. In short, these techniques help readers and critics dig deeper into the psychological side of literature, showing that stories are not only about what happens on the surface, but also about what's happening inside the mind. Next, talk about structuralism method in literary criticism. This method is based on the idea that a literary work should be studied as a system, where all parts are connected and depend on one another. Structuralist critics focus on system analysis, which means they analyze the relationships between elements in a text rather than looking at each element separately. For example, instead of studying just one character or event, they examine how those parts work together to create meaning within the whole story. The main goal of structuralism is to understand the structure or pattern that shapes the text. It's like looking at the framework or skeleton of a story, how characters, settings, symbols, and plotliness relate to each other or to form a complete system. In short, the structuralism method teaches us that the meaning of the story doesn't come from individual parts alone, but from how those parts are arranged and connected to make a unified whole. Next, we'll discuss about the techniques of structuralism in literary criticism. These techniques help critics understand how meaning is created through the structure of a text. The first technique is identifying binary oppositions. This means looking for pairs of opposite ideas in a story, such as good and evil, rich and poor, or life and death. These opposites help shape the meaning and tension in a literary work. The second technique is using narratology, which is the study of how stories are told. Here, critics focus on the structure of the plot, the roles of the characters and how events are organized to create meaning. Lastly, exploring semiotics, involves studying signs and symbols in the text. Every word, image, or action can represent something deeper, and semiotics helps us understand how these signs work together to form meaning. In summary, the structuralism technique allows us to see literature as a system of patterns and relationships, not just isolated parts, showing how meaning is built through structure and form.
And that's it! Thank you for listening to our discussion, and I hope that you learned something from us. Bye!